are in genuine crisis. Now, by crisis, I mean crisis. Most of these, or a lot of clubs around Europe, are not having the best of starts to the season, but they're maybe not in a crisis. These 10 teams I picked up are genuinely really, really poor. Most of them are actually in trouble of getting relegated, even though, as we'll discuss, a lot of them had hopes of European places, etc. So I'm going to give those 10. Hopefully you guys can learn a little bit more about some clubs who aren't doing so well, and also maybe we'll feature a couple of these on the rebuilds we do on career mode, because definitely a lot of these clubs need a rebuild. They are in order from 10 to 1, so the number 1 team for me is the club who is in the biggest crisis in European football right now. So let me know if I've missed anybody out, and let's begin. So number 10, Sampdoria, Serie B. Sampdoria have endured a pretty challenging few years, and there's little sign of this turmoil relenting. Last campaign they finished last in Serie A, but that was the least of their problems. Financially, the club was a mess, with reports of unpaid wages plaguing the one-time Scudetto winners all season. It took a last gasp takeover by then Leeds owner Andrea Razzani to essentially save the club from bankruptcy. They tasked Andre Pirlo with turning things around in the summer, but the Italian legend has experienced a challenging start to life in the second tier. Although they are outside of our relegation places for now, a return of 7 points from 10 games means Pirlo is already in danger of being relieved of his duties, and considering they have been in Serie A for so long, you would expect them to be easily fighting to go back up straight away, but it looks like they're fighting to stay in the second division of Italian football. Next up, in at number 9, we have Bordeaux, Ligue 2. Bordeaux boasts 6 French league titles and a pretty decent European pedigree, but they are currently languishing in Ligue 2, and a return to the top flight does not appear likely anytime soon either. They were even supposed to be in the third tier this season, despite securing a third place finish last year. Relegation was imposed on them due to their financial issues, though the club successfully appealed that decision and managed to stay in the league. They may have just been delaying the inevitable though. Bordeaux, under the guidance of Liverpool flop Albert Riera, are currently just 3 points outside the relegation zone, after losing a host of young stars, including top scorer Josh Maja in the summer, and appear to be on the verge of another relegation, which is very surprising considering this team finished third last year. They are now competing to stay in Ligue 2, a pretty remarkable fall from grace in general from Bordeaux, who I remember personally, they were, growing up one of the big sides you look at in France, but now they are potentially going to be in the third tier. Number 8, Schalke, Bundesliga 2. By the way, that's the last of the second tier clubs for now. Now, poor old Schalke fans, when will their misery end? And to be honest, I could have included Schalke on this list throughout the last 5 years. Champions League quarter-finalists as recently as 2017, and boasting one of the biggest fan bases in all of Germany. Schalke have been dealt blow after blow chances of bouncing back straight away this campaign are close to zero. They've won just twice so far, with manager Thomas Rees already being sacked. Carol Gergitz is the man tasked with preventing their 23-24 season from turning into another farce, and he has at least some talent to work with. Relegation to the third tier is unthinkable for a club like Schalke, but as Schalke have been so chaotic in recent years, it cannot be ruled out entirely, which is pretty insane to say that they could be a third tier side just 6 years after playing in a Champions League quarter-final. Number 7, Celta Vigo, La Liga. Now, it would be an overstatement to describe Celta Vigo like the others, Schalke and Bordeaux, as fallen giant, but they definitely fit into the category of teams performing well below expectations this season. Since returning to the top flight in 2012, the club have flirted with relegation more than once. However, in recent years they seem to have re-established themselves as La Liga stalwarts. Since Rafa Benitez replaced Carlos Carvajal in the summer, that appears to be changing though. The former Everton boss turned down some big money offers across the globe to join Celta, which is a decision he may be beginning to regret. There's no shortage of talented players at Vigo, including the evergreen Iago Aspas and new signing Jonathan Bamba, but things just aren't clicking under Benitez, and without Gabby Vega, who they lost in the summer, Celta have won only one game so far and need to turn things around quickly if they are to avoid a surprise relegation. Number 6, Basel, Swiss Super League. Basel are one of the powerhouses of Swiss football, boasting 20 league titles. They were especially successful at the turn of the millennial, finishing top 12 times between 2001 and 17. There's been a gradual drop-off since then though, coinciding with the rise of young boys as the new power in Switzerland, and a battle for ownership with fan protests behind the scenes. Last season they finished 5th, but did take Fiorentina to extra time in the Conference League semi-finals. Sporting director Heiko Vogel took over coaching responsibilities midway through that campaign, following the unpopular dismissal of club icon Alexander Frey, with former St. Pauli boss Timo Schultz handed the reins in the summer. He was dealt a difficult hand though, with the club losing a string of key players and not dipping into the market to replace them until August. Results were understandably poor and he paid with his job at the end of September. Vogel stepped in the hot seat yet again, and Basel have not won a game since. They are currently rock bottom and the fans are not happy. That is really, really poor by Basel. The only reason they're not higher is because, as I said before, it has been a bit of a steady decline by them, so expectations have been dropping off, and last season was not great by them, but to be rock bottom at a club like Basel, wow. Number 5, Istanbul Basaksehir Super League. Amid Fenerbahce and Galatasaray's unbeaten starts to the Super League, the club that only a few years ago threatened to upset the traditional power in Turkey is struggling at the bottom of the table. Istanbul's project has been losing steam over the past few seasons. They finished 5th last year, but few could have predicted the drop-off witnessed this season. Despite the signings of big names Christoph Piatek and Emmanuel Dennis in the summer, the team have won just 2 of their opening 9 games, a run that has included a 4-0 thrashing at the hands of meant-to-be title rivals Fenerbahce. Thankfully for Man United, who Basaksehir famously beat back in 2020, the days of the club gracing the Champions League appear to be over. But yet again, it's crazy to think that just 3 years ago, this club was beating Man United in the Champions League, and now still isn't good enough. Currently sitting just 1 point above the relegation zone, Lens need to find some form quickly. Number 3, Union Berlin Bundesliga. Union Berlin's rise over the past few years have been one of the most uplifting stories in world football. Supporters once gave blood for cash so the club could finance stadium improvements, and now they're in the Champions League. We actually did a video on this last season, so check that out if you want to know more about their rapid rise. During their ascension, Union have always operated on very thin margins, relying on their tireless work ethic, direct approach play, and organisation skills of coach Urs Fischer to squeeze every ounce of ability of their resources. This season, though, they haven't had anywhere near the same level of success, amid concerns that the summer recruits are just not suited to their robust style. They are without a victory in Europe and are hovering just outside the relegation zone, having conceded nearly half the amount of goals they let in during the entire of last season, and they've only played 8 games. It was always going to be almost impossible to beat last season's top 4 finish, but this degree of regression was not expected. Number 2, Lyon, Ligue 1. Lyon appeared to be a classic case of off-field uncertainty affecting performances on the pitch. Under long-serving president Jean-Michel Aulas, the club dominated France before the arrival of PSG, and also became the prominent power in European women's football. Aulas sold up to John Textor last December, and the American has been restructuring the club's finances ever since, foregoing a stake in the women's side to Lyon owner Michael Kang, while attempting to decrease Lyon's focus on assets. It's all very complicated, and it appears to have come at the cost of on-pitch success, at least for the men's team. After selling a string of important players in the window, manager Laurent Blanc made a horrendous start and was sacked in September, with the club's ultras slamming the team from the stands, following a 4-1 drumming to PSG in its penultimate game. Things haven't got any better under his replacement Fabio Grosso, with Lyon still without a win at bottom of Ligue 1, sitting a full 6 points from safety already, despite posting the likes of Tolisso, Lovren, Lacazette and Rayan Cherki. Supporters are continuing to vent their frustrations, recently unveiling banners which urge Textor to focus on football. They've got a point too. Lyon won't be any use commercially if they drop down in Ligue 2. And finally, the club in the most turmoil in Europe has to be Ajax. Now, their turmoil has been well documented at late, and I actually did a video on them, so if you want to know more in depth about their situation, go watch that. I'm not going to talk too much about it here, I'll put a link to that in the description. But for a brief summary, after their fierce rivals, Feyenoord scored a third goal before half-time. The crowd peppered the turf with flares and missiles, and the game was eventually abandoned, but some supporters broke into the stadium's main reception. And since this day, Ajax's horrendous form has continued. A dramatic 4-3 defeat to Utrecht on Sunday, which was punctuated by further crowd disorder, condemned the team to their worst run of form since 1954. They're currently in the relegation zone, having sacked sporting director for dodgy transfer dealings. The club have now turned to legends Van Gaal and Danny Blind in an attempt to resurrect the side after sacking their manager on Monday. The fact that this has been allowed to happen when Ajax possess such a financial stranglehold over Dutch football is a shambles of unparalleled proportion. So there we go, those are 10 teams in a shambles, a mess right now this season. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and if you have enjoyed, consider subscribing, and I'll see